Alright, and welcome. Today I'm demonstrating our French apple tart. So, you should have all your ingredients. It's, looking at the ingredients, not too many, so it's pretty straightforward, one might think. However, there's a fair bit of process involved with the puff pastry. Okay, so we're going to get started with that first. Over here, got my 2 apples, my butter and sugar. Okay, it's just going to sit separately. And please note that butter is your 30 grams of butter. It's not your 150. Your 150 grams of butter sits over here, and it's part of the dough. Okay, the puff pastry, I should say. Okay, so we're going to start. We've got our 200 grams of flour. We've got 100 mils of water, cold water. Beautiful, don't make it hot. Okay, the reason for that is once we start adding our butter, it's not going to work very well. Alright, so we've got our 5 mils of vinegar. We're going to put that in the water. Okay, and we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. Fantastic, straight in the water. Excellent so far. Pretty easy to follow along with. I'm going to grab a spoon, just going to stir that around. We just want to dissolve that sugar, my bad. We want to dissolve that salt. Okay, the vinegar helps to do that, obviously. Look at that, happy days, fantastic. So once we've done that, we basically want to add it into our flour. Okay, you can choose to do that however you want. You can make a little well in the center, chuck your water in, and look, we're just going to make a little dough here. So straight away, first and foremost, pretty simple really, isn't it? Obviously we've washed our hands. Okay, shouldn't be at this stage if you haven't. Okay, but look, you're bringing that together nicely. It will stick on your fingers, but don't worry, as we start pushing it into itself. Look, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put that on the bench, just so you get a better view of it. Alright, bear with me, so you can see it is sticking to your fingers. That's alright, you can just peel that off. Lovely. Let's push it into itself. Process of kneading. Okay, so we need to get this right. Yes, I can still do my jokes. Excellent, so look, kneading that lovely, it's coming together perfect. What that does, obviously, it's helping to stretch the gluten there in the flour, but also working that liquid into our flour. You'll notice as I started there were plenty of dry bits. Okay, the more I do this, the water is getting dispersed amongst the flour, and it's making a nice, pliable, more moist dough, or pastry in this case, which it will be. Excellent, so just going to knead that. Process of kneading, just using the palm of your hand there. Okay, pushing that down, then folding it over, pushing it down again. Okay, so pretty simple, but we don't really need to overwork this right now. We don't need to knead like crazy. We just want to bring all that together. Give it a little knead as I have, but right now what we want to do there is give that a nice rest. Okay, so we're going to wrap that up. So you can choose to wrap it in some Glad wrap if you want, or you can put it in a bowl, nice little towel over the top, put it in the fridge. Before we do that, might be an idea, instead of leaving it as a ball, I don't generally like to leave my resting things as a ball because I find it's harder to start to roll them out. I generally start to shape them as a flat surface, which I'm going to want after it's been rested. So perfect, it's nice and flat, ready. It's going to be easier to roll than trying to push down a ball. So we're going to put that in the fridge about half hour. Alright, so while the pastry dough, whatever you want to call it, is resting, okay, for half an hour, grab yourself 2 sheets of baking paper. Look, they're about 40 centimeters long. Okay, grab a ruler and a pen and draw up on the top sheet draw up about a 12 by 12 centimetre square on there, okay? That's all you need that for. Now, once you've got that done, grab your butter. Now, I would suggest that your butter's been cold, okay, kept cold in the fridge, okay, because the reason we've got our pastry cold right now is simply because this recipe works best by keeping the butter cold. You can imagine as butter warms up, it melts, you're going to get an awful drippy, sticky, maybe not sticky, but pretty ordinary mess, okay, if your butter's not cold. So, obviously, because our butter's cold, it's very hard to work with. This is where this comes in handy. Or something similar. You may have a little meat mallet. Let's be honest, you may have a large spoon, large metal spoon, something like that. Something with a little bit of weight that you can hit the butter down with. This is obviously going to make a little bit of noise, but what you want to do, if you want to achieve, you know, make your butter get to your 12 centimetre square. Okay, this will all make sense. This will all make sense as to why we're doing that. But right now, all you want to do is make your butter nice and pliable so that it may obviously go over the 12 centimetres. That's fine, but we obviously don't want it the size of the paper. Okay, centimetre or two over your 12, that's fine. Okay, the 12 is just as a guide, the 12 centimetre cube square. Sorry. Now look, that's looking pretty good. What I'm going to do, because I've got a rolling pin, I'm just going to smooth that off a little bit. Doesn't matter if you don't have a rolling pin. Now that I've made a nice little shape there, obviously not amazingly perfect with my square, but pretty close. Okay. As I said, the 12 centimeters just as a guide. We're going to roll our pastry out soon. You'll see why, and this butter is going to sit nicely in there. Okay. So once that's done, you can cool that back down while you're waiting for your pastry. So once our dough's been resting for half an hour, we're going to pull it out. So what you can choose to do here, if you like, I'm going to go with a bit of flour on the bench. Okay, so nice little sprinkling of flour for your dough, so that obviously it's not going to stick to the bench. Okay, so it wouldn't be good. Okay, so what you can choose to do is to do flour, or you could choose to take those pieces off your butter and just leave your butter on a plate. Okay, and use the paper to roll the dough in between. Okay, completely up to you, whatever you prefer. I myself prefer the flour. Alright, so you can see it's nice and cool now. It's been rested. Alright, now nice bit of flour on there. I'm going to roll it out. So I'm going to roll it out into a similar square shape to what I did my butter. Okay, just bear with me, I'll try and get that shape. Excellent. Okay, so I've pretty much got that side shape. Let's have a look. See how close I am here. Alright, if I were to put that on there, boom, I'm pretty good. Alright, but right now I'll leave that off for a second. And Now what I want to start to do is start to work each side. Okay, just the edges. Just the edges, and roll them down. See how I'm rolling that edge really flat compared to the rest? Now what you may have to do, obviously, probably is going to be easier if you use flour, to be honest, because this part might be quite difficult in the paper. Alright, so just rolling that edge out. If it starts to stick to your rolling pin obviously needs a bit of flour too. Okay, so got that edge nice and flat. Let's work on the others. Alright, so again, need that flour on the rolling pin too. And you want to make sure that, see, no flour there anymore. It's all been absorbed by the pastry. Pop a little bit more there. Alright, boom. Fantastic. Look at that. Alright, so we've got so far two nice edges sticking out from our squarish type shape. Okay, so now we're going to go this side. Another little crack, a little bit more flour, rolling it out. Okay, again, let's lift that edge up. All that flour's gone again. Alright, a bit more flour underneath there. Rolling that out, lovely. So you're going to notice, obviously, as we're rolling that out, this centre part is obviously staying thicker and higher. That's what we want. You're doing a great job. Fantastic. Excellent. So flour again. Okay. Now work this last one out, last edge. Oh, you can see it stuck a little bit there. Make sure you got that flour on. Make sure that flour's there. Excellent. Alright, lift up again. Flour's all gone underneath. A bit more under there. Fantastic. Alright, so we've got this kind of plus sign with a raised section in the middle. Excellent, that's exactly what we need right now. Okay, if that's what it looks like, you're nailing it. Okay, so, excellent. What we need now is the butter. We don't need that. We don't need that section. That there. Alright. So the butter should sit pretty nicely in our main section now. Okay, fantastic. Look at that. Look at all that butter. Amazing, eh? Alright. Excellent. So, now, simple as lifting up and covering over. Again, lifting up and trying to hide that butter. Okay. Alright. Want to make sure you just put those edges together. Okay. Because you don't want that butter trying to escape. Okay. We want to try and keep the butter in here. So, right now, we have a nice little package, haven't we? I'll just move that over to allow me to put a bit more flour on the board here. Alright, nice little bit of flour. Fantastic. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to roll that out. Fantastic. Nice and gently. Don't go gung-ho. You don't want to tear holes in your pastry. Okay. And what's going to happen if you tear holes in the pastry? The butter's going to come flying out. Maybe not flying out. Maybe it's a bit of an over-exaggeration there. But your butter's going to come out and it's not going to be very pretty. Okay, so looking at this is fantastic. The butter's still encased in there. And we're doing everything perfect, alright? Nice little bit more flour. Alright. Just gently, remember, rolling from the middle out. Rolling from the middle out. Okay. turn the pastry around. If you keep turning the pastry, you're going to know that it's not stuck to the bench too. So it's a pretty handy little thing, I think, to do. And also it makes it easier. Can get a little bit tricky going this way and that way and every other which way when you're trying to roll your dough. Alright, so look at this, you can see that butter is still perfectly inside as we roll out a fairly decent, probably 30 by 30 square-ish shape. A bit loose with the terms of shapes today, alright? Excellent. So, from there, a little bit more flour. Okay, so we've made a nice square. We're just going to push these edges up a little bit further. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, excellent. You can see that's really coming out nicely. And it's still all together, all encased. That butter is, it's exactly where we need it. Obviously, making sure our butter was nice and cold. Okay, so once you've got your rectangle sorted, looks like that, fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do what's called a book turn. Okay, so we're going to fold in from the side here a third, and then in from the side here a third. Okay, and then we're going to turn this around like so. Okay, so we're going to do a few of those. So we're going to start with doing 2 now. Okay, so from here, once you've done that, you're going to roll this back out. Okay, so just be careful, obviously, of your butter. I know I keep saying it, but you really don't want to get your butter everywhere. You want to keep everything nice and cool and floured. Okay, that's the trick to this. It really is. So I'm going to work this out again. So what these book turns do in terms of your pastry, excuse me for a second, is they basically create layer upon layer upon layer within your pastry. And if you think about it, the butter's the butter's encased in those layers. And so what happens when that cooks is the butter obviously gets hot, reacts with the flour, creates steam, okay, and that steam, because that butter's encapsulated within the flour, that steam creates obviously pockets of air within your pastry. That's how you get that puff pastry. So it's a pretty simple definition of why puff pastry works, but nonetheless, it is the definition in essence of how it works. Now, what you got to be careful of is obviously your pastry underneath. Okay, so I've rolled this out again. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to get rid of some of that excess flour. Okay, and I'm going to do my book turns again. So third in, and then a quarter turn. So we'll take that up. Instead of putting that back down, I'm just going to scrape some of that off for a second. Bear with me. You should have... Yeah, that's right. I'll just use the old-fashioned scraper. However, we want to make sure you get, if you do have any butter on your board, on your bench, you want to make sure you get that off before start rolling that out again. The idea is obviously not to lose too much butter out of your pastry. That's why we're going to be cooling it down and resting, etc. So, some nice flour down. I've done my book folds. As you can see, it used to be that way. Okay, so once I've done my book folds, I do a quarter turn. Alright, so once that quarter turn's done, I then start rolling that back out again. And I roll up and down again. Up and down. Up and down. Okay, so again, just keep checking every now and again, make sure you've enough, make sure you've got enough flour underneath. Okay, this is a bit of a process. Okay, rolling that out, fantastic, look at that. So, once you've rolled that out again in a rectangle shape, then you can do your book turns again. Okay, just check to make sure. Excellent, moving nicely. Alright, so third turn. Okay, so now what you're going to do here is just going to put 2 dots there. Okay, before we cool it down. So a little tray here, cool it down in the fridge for about 40-60 minutes. So it's a bit of a process this, a lot of waiting for your dough to be ready. Okay, so while we do that, we'll just clean up and just wait for that to rest up. It's important to make sure that we do rest it though, otherwise we're not going to be able to keep rolling it out. Okay, obviously what you're going to do is the same process. So you're going to rest it for 40-60 minutes in the fridge, nice and cool. Pull it out, you're going to roll it back out from this direction, back down, and then you're going to do your book turns, do the quarter turn, and then roll it out again. Now you do that twice again, and then you mark 4 dots for the second time. Okay, then you're going to put it back in, and then you're going to do it again one more time after that. Alright, so once you've done that process, the same process, rolling it out into a rectangle, doing your 3 folds, like so, then turning, then rolling out again. Once you've done that 6 times, 2, 4, 6, you are ready to basically roll it out into a circle. Okay, so what we can do is start trying to roll it out in a circle. A little bit difficult when you've got a big rectangle there, but we'll get there. We'll work it into a bit of a circle as best we can. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to try and create a circle, because we're obviously making our apple tart, French apple tart. So a nice puff pastry, it's looking amazing, feeling fantastic too, by the way. Alright. Excellent. Alright, so you can see it's much easier to work with now because all that butter is incorporated in there. Alright, so I'm slowly just trying to work up a bit of an edge so that I can try and get a bit more of a circle shape. Alright, pushing out where I need to, pushing in where I need to. Alright, excellent. So starting to get a bit more circly. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to pop that onto a piece of baking paper. I don't want to roll it out first and it not be on baking paper because that could be a bit awkward. Okay. Better to be on the baking paper that you're going to bake it on, ready to go into the oven. Alright, so you want to try and get it out as even as possible. Look, if you're not going to make a circle like me, that's fine. Just try and organise a bit of a shape You can, if you want, you can just go a rectangle. We've got more of an oval here. Okay, fantastic. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cool that down once more, believe it or not. Okay, just so it's ready to go into the oven. While our pastry is cooling in the oven, we can tackle our apples. Alright, so easiest way I think to do this is to cut them directly in half and then cut a little V out of them. Okay, fantastic. Once that V's gone, they're going to be much easier to slice. Now what we want to achieve is some nice fine slice. That's why I've got a bread knife. Realistically, whatever you find most comfortable to use is my suggestion of what knife you should use. I find a bread knife can get you a fantastic nice slice on your apple. I'll demonstrate. Move that. Alright, so let's have a look here. Close it up. Alright, so while I'm doing this apple, I'm melting the butter, the 30 grams of butter that we have. We've got 2 apples here. Alright, so I'm just going to slice down them like so. And you want a nice thin slice, okay, because this is going to sit on top of your pastry. Okay, the end might be a little bit difficult. Always tasty to eat. Excuse me. Alright, so using your fingers up the top as a guide is obviously the best way to move along for your cutting thickness, but again, you don't have to cut as fast as me. You don't have to use the same knife as me, just so long as you get some nice thin slices. Okay, it's pretty handy if you can keep them all in the cup straight away, like rather than separating them all out. Much easier when you're going to put them on. I'll show you. You can just treat them like a deck of cards and deal them out onto your pastry. Alright, so nearly done. There we go. Don't worry about those two. Alright, so the ingredients left are our apples, which are now sliced, our sugar, and our melted butter. Fantastic. Now, you may choose to use a microwave, that's fine. I don't have one, so I can't. Okay, so now what we're going to do is grab our nice cool pastry out. Fantastic. We've got our brush, which only had water on it before. Okay, so should be fine to use. Just try and get that excess water off. Alright, so I'm going to brush, yes, more butter. I'm going to brush this pastry with butter. Fantastic, look at that. So you should have just the right amount of butter. Maybe you've got a little bit generous actually. I've got a little bit left over. Alright, so now what we've got our apples. Alright, so we'll try and, as I said, deal them out. So you've got to try and measure how many apples you've got compared to the base that you've got. So we obviously want to try and get all our base covered with our apples. It would be pretty sad if we didn't. Okay, so I like to keep the skin on. It gives it nice little reddish colour. Okay, so just going to keep working those apples around. There, you may want to turn your tray around. By all means, whatever you find easier to work with. Excellent, look at that. So we're working those apples around. You can see they're all pretty, that was a little bit thicker, but they're all pretty much of a muchness on the thickness. That's what you want. That will obviously allow them to cook at the same rate. Fantastic. Now on my third apple, should, hopefully looking at this, should hopefully have enough apples to cover my base. I'm just going to pop that one up, pop that one underneath there. Fantastic, and then just start working around on the inside here. Oh, just about perfect on the apples, look at that. Got the little pieces there. Shoop, shoop, shoop. Fantastic, alright, nice French apple tart. Now, this is the important part, this is sugar, which will help caramelise those apples. Okay, look at that, nice. May not need all that sugar too. I think I might have been a bit generous on your sugar portion. Alright, I've used about 2/3 of that sugar. Excellent, and that should give me a nice, beautiful caramelisation. Any excess apple, you can try and pop them in. A couple of little spots. Alright, so into the oven, 200 degrees. For about around 20 minutes. We'll see how it is. Alright? Okay, so after I've had mine in for 25 minutes, so I'm going to grab that out. Maybe. Alright. And she looks amazing. Okay, so I'll put that over there, nice and hot, just be careful. Alright, so obviously you can choose how you want to serve this, what you want to serve it with. Okay. What you've got now a beautiful, I'm going to cut some rectangle shapes. Excellent. So I'm sure my kids are going to love this. So, fantastic. Grab a plate out. Nice little bit of tart on there. A little trick if you want. A little bit of hot water. Heat the spoon up. So it's nice and warm. You dry that, and then you can get a nice little spoon of cream on top. Fantastic. So your French apple tart should look amazing, just like that. Enjoy.